Welcome to the Early Morning Light Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy. Early on this podcast, I share life-changing tips, tools, information, motivation, and inspiration to bring light to your life as you tune in week after week to the Early Morning Light Podcast. And I hope as you're listening today that you're enjoying your summer. I want to take this time to thank all of you who have continued to roll with the Early Morning Light Podcast since February, I think, is when we started. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate some of the feedback that I'm getting from people, and I'm looking forward to making this podcast more useful for you, more helpful as you tune in week after week to the Early Morning Light Podcast. And on this episode, I want to talk about something that has been crucial in my own life. And that is, and I don't mean as I say this to be sexist or to single out men versus women, nothing like that. But I have learned, or I have been able to experience the power of positive relationships with like-minded men in my life. And not that I only associate with men, that's not the point. I just have learned the value of having good friends in my life, solid men who are like-minded guys that I can just get together with and just chop it up with whatever we decide to talk about at that time. I have a few guys who I get together with once a month or every couple of weeks for coffee or lunch. And I was just thinking about it today as I met with one of those gentlemen, just how important those relationships have been in my life. And I will say that during that period of COVID that we all went through, when we weren't able to get together, was when I really noticed the distinct difference in how I felt in certain areas of my life when I wasn't able to connect with those guys. And I'm not, again, this is not about men versus women or anything like that. It's just there's something about when two guys or two more guys get together on a regular basis, that is just life enriching for me, that is encouraging for me, that has been motivating for me. And during those coffees or those lunches or whatever we're doing, some of the areas that we tend to talk about are career. It's good to just have someone you can get to meet with and just talk about what's going on in your career, your business, in your vocational life, and just kind of bounce ideas off of and get input. It's really difficult, as we probably all know, to operate in a vacuum all the time in certain areas of our life. So career and business are one of the areas. Today, I met with one of my friends who I get together with frequently, and we had a conversation just about parenting, just about being a father and some of the things that we have focused on and been challenged with as a father to our kids. Both of our kids are adults at this point, but we just talked about some of our goals for our kids and what we wanted to speak into our kids and some of the challenges versus some of the things that go well. And it was just an enriching conversation. There's just something about talking to other fathers who are where you are in raising young adults or kids who are younger, that is just empowering, enriching, encouraging. There's always a sense of encouragement when you realize that this process, although it may be different for different fathers with different relationships with different children, that there are some things that are alike, and you can just bounce ideas off of one another and just process through and just walk away feeling like you took something away from that conversation. So today that was the topic. Sometimes the topic is spiritual. It's so important that we have people, even outside of our Bible studies and some of the other spiritual settings that we're in, we're fed in that way. It's good to have just someone you can get with, or you can process things from a spiritual standpoint. I have a couple of friends who are actually pastors, and not that we're always talking about spiritual topics when we meet, but it's good to know that I have people in my life from that arena who I can get together and talk with. And I just think that it feels like, and again, don't mean to be sexist, that women tend to be better at connecting with like-minded women on a regular basis. And as guys, I don't think we do that enough. I've been a part of a couple of mastermind groups that have been all men. Not that women were excluded, but that's just the way the mastermind group was set up. And it's the same thing. It's a group, so it's not a one-on-one coffee but there is an energy that comes with that, with getting together with like-minded guys and just bouncing ideas off of one another and feeding off of the energy of that group, and setting goals and one of the big things that is important or helpful in getting together with someone, whether it's an individual or a group, is just that idea of accountability. Again, when we're operating in a vacuum just by ourselves, there's no one to really hold us accountable. But when you have someone or a group that you're meeting with, and you've stated in that group that you have a certain goal that you're working towards, and you have a certain time frame that you want to achieve that particular goal, and you're going to get back with that person or that group at a certain time and check in on those things. It just adds a little more, I don't want to call it pressure, but just a little more incentive, I'll call it that, to get that thing done. So I'm a big fan of getting together with like-minded guys on a regular basis, just to feed off of the energy and to hold each other accountable and to process through the things of life. As we all know, life can throw a lot of things at us. We get busy, and we can quickly start to exist in this vacuum where we are just doing things, especially if you're like a type A person, or you're someone who is kind of a go-getter, or a person who prides yourself on getting things done. We can get into these situations where we are just operating in isolation, and there's no one to really bounce things off of. There's no one to challenge us. There's no one to ask good questions. Sometimes one of the most powerful things that happens when I meet with one of the guys I get together with on a regular basis is that person will pose a question that I hadn't considered, or a question that actually helps me to process things a different way. And I can't think of one right now that was asked, but maybe I'll share that on another episode of the Early Morning Light podcast. But sometimes it's the question. Sometimes it's you're with someone and you may say something and they may have a different perspective or a different view or a different way that they have done that thing. That actually happened today a couple of times. But sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's just, and I know, this is not about like being patted on the back or anything like that, but sometimes it's that person may provide some reassurance that whatever you're doing is right on track. I mean, the way that you responded in that situation, as you shared a situation maybe with your kids or in your business or maybe in your career, you may share something, a situation that's happened, and that person may be able to confirm with you or reassure you that, hey, you're right on track. And that feels good too, right? I just want to make sure that, as I'm talking about this, that if you don't have someone who you get together with on a regular basis, whether it's for coffee or for lunch, and I'm going to go as far. I'm going to step out and even suggest that it if at all possible, that it's not an online Zoom, Microsoft Teams meeting. I'm talking face-to-face, one-on-one meeting, or you among a group of like-minded guys just getting together to encourage, support each other. That's what I'm talking about. In person, there's a different dynamic, and we learned this through during COVID, right? There's a different dynamic that happens when you're actually in person with someone, and you're reading that body language, and you're reading those nonverbal things that are happening that you may miss or not pick up on the screen. There's something about that energy of being face to face, in person, with those like-minded people. So I highly, highly, highly encourage it. And if you're someone who maybe you don't have someone who you're connecting with on a regular basis, I just recommend that you think about the people in your life. The guys, and I'm speaking to guys today, and the same thing happens, with women. Think of the people in your life who are like-minded folks, who there's something about the person that you just feel like you would like to get to spend more time with that person, that person would be a good person to bounce your thoughts and your ideas off of, and just maybe even make a list of those people. And then make the commitment to, within the next week, to reach out to that person and just say, hey man, I just want to get together for coffee. What's your schedule look like? Let's get together, and I don't need a whole lot of your time, maybe an hour or less. Let's just get together and just see where it goes. And this is my hunch, or my guess, is that you have people like that in your life right now. Like most of us can sit down, or wherever you are right now, can write down that list and just start checking off the folks you want to reach out to. Maybe it's not a big or a larger mastermind group at this time, but everyone has someone who you would like to spend more time with and just hang out and chat and do life with as another guy. So I highly encourage it. If you're someone who would probably be on my list, or someone who would like to connect with me, if you have my number, if you have a way of contacting me, reach out. I would love to get together and just have coffee. No strings attached, no major expectations, but just getting together as like-minded people and doing life together. That's what it's all about. This is Tracy Early. Thank you for tuning in to the Early Morning Light podcast. For those of you who've tuned in since February of this year, I'm so happy that you chose to stay with the Early Morning Light podcast. Continue to tune in as I continue to add light to your life as you tune in week after week. Talk to you soon.